Hello. In this video, we are going to cover a project in our course Microsoft Endpoint Manager and Intune training. So far, you have learned about what is Intune, how to get the license, the trial access, setting up automatic enrollment Windows 10, 11 on a direct Intune and a device connection. But now we're going to cover something different where most of the companies are using a hybrid setup. So how can we deploy Intune to a hybrid setup? Before getting into this project, I assume you already know about Active Directory, you know about what is Azure, Office 365, some of the basic technologies that we already know before we even use Intune. So if you're watching this project and you don't know what Active Directory is, how hybrid connections works, or what is domain, how to join a computer to a domain, this is not a part of Intune. It's just a part of knowing IT systems and networking and basics of being a IT support professional. If you are new and you would like to start, then you need to go back to Job Skills Share Roadmaps as a premium member and finish the roadmap of modern IT support. Click here and finish the courses inside. This is going to teach you what we are basically not teaching in this course, like Active Directory talk, how things are set up, cloud, Office 365, things like that, DHCP, DNS. If that's something missing, then you need to finish this first and then take the Intune project or course. In this project, we are going to use a home lab because when we create everything, we would like to keep the labs running for a longer period because this is a long project. So if you have your home resources and you would like to create the same lab, the link is provided on how to download VirtualBox, ISOs, and how I created all of this setup. So we're going to be using the same setup for our Intune lab, but of course I'm going to be creating a Active Directory from scratch, everything again because I don't want to use this current Active Directory environment which is already in there. So again, if you would like to create the same lab, the link is in the course video unit or it's in the description of this video. Now, when you go to the company, you don't have to create all of this stuff because that's what's not expected from you as an entry level person or beginner who gets into this role. Everything is set up. That's why you're doing this project because somebody already have a company. It's running, Active Directory is running, and everything is set up. All you got to do is to learn about Intune. But for us to develop everything from scratch, you will also understand and learn how things were created in the first place. So if you have watched the whole video on how to create a lab, basically, at this point, we have this setup, which I'm going to basically use a new server from the image. This is something that I have covered in the creation of the lab video. So let's go ahead and create a new server so I can convert that into a domain controller on on-premises Active Directory environment. So I'm going to go ahead and clone this and create a new environment. And I'm going to name it DC1, and this is going to be the Active Directory that is going to be inside the company. So just remember our kind of like a diagram. DC1 is inside the company. It's already built, it's running. You got hired. You don't have to do this process, and somebody's already managing DC1 at this point. So DC1 is there. I'm going to go ahead and right click on the settings. I'm going to use a network, which is bridge network. This is something that I discussed in the lab creation video. If you have watched it, you know what this means. So I'm going to click OK. And for a client inside a, our um, test environment, we're going to use Windows 11 image. I already created this, so I'm going to clone an image of Windows 11 now, and I'm going to call it client 1 and click next. So just assume you went to a company. In that company, domain controller is running somewhere in the server room in a virtual environment. And the client one is, let's say, an office where somebody have a desktop and they just go into that room and open a desktop or a laptop, and then they will use that to log into the client machine. So that's the setup we're going to use first, and then we're going to move on to other setups in this Intune environment. So let's quickly configure a domain controller. So we're going to go ahead and open this server and run it from scratch. So here we have a server. So let's go ahead and click on next. accept the agreements, and then give it a password. All right, we're going to click on finish. All right, so let's do the initial setup very quickly. We have already done that in our lab, so we're going to do it for this domain controller as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and change the name of this server because I want to make it a DC1 domain controller. That's the name that I want to give. So rename and name it DC1, and I'm going to click next. And then of course you need to restart this one more time. So let's just do that quickly. All right, machine is restarted. I'm not going to do anything special in this server right now. I'm just going to convert it to a domain controller, adding an Active Directory. So let's go ahead, go to Manage, Add Roles and Features, click Next, 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 and here we're going to choose Active Directory Domain Services, just like we did in the lab before. Click Next, Next, and Install. So now I'm going to promote this server to a domain controller. We need a new new forest, sorry. So here's a domain name. We're going to call it b2pservice.com because we own this domain. You don't have to own a domain, but of course, later on, I'm going to be doing things in the Azure or the cloud environment where I'm going to need a full domain where I want to do this in the right way. um, that's where you may get stuck. So you'll have to kind of do different things at that point. But here you can put local, dot local, your name, whatever you want to choose for this, if you want to follow this same video. So here we're going to call b2pservice.com. That's a domain name. We're going to click next. We're going to give the password. Click next. B2P service, next. We're going to do next, next, and we're going to install this. All right, so our domain controller is ready. We're going to go ahead, close this. The machine will restart automatically. So I'm going to remind you again that this type of setup is already done in the companies. When you get hired and you start working on Intune, you don't have to do all of this because, like I said, in the companies, everything is already 99.9%. This is already done. And when you start working on Intune, this is just, we're doing it for lab purpose. So you can see how things were created from scratch. It gives you a little better understanding of how to troubleshoot things too. So that's why we're doing this part. All right, so let's go ahead and log into our DC01 domain. I am going to pick other user because I want to log into the domain B2P service. Use administrator account and the password. And then I'm going to create a domain admin account in Active Directory, users in Active Directory. So let's make a scenario. You went to a company, there was an IT administrator or IT director, and they were using an on-premises Active Directory and they have 300 clients. Somehow they were managing the client through SCCM or other product. They went to Microsoft and then basically Microsoft suggested to use Intune to now manage your clients because maybe they were already using Office 365, OneDrive, emails, and things, and they now decided to manage their devices or desktops through Intune, and that's how things started. So that's, of course, I'm not going to cover that. You have went through that on how to get the Intune, what is Intune. That's part of the course. You just learn that the beginning stuff, go to Microsoft documentation and all of that. What is Intune? So this another IT person decided that you're going to be the in charge of Intune. So let's go ahead and add you into the system. That's up to them how much rights they want to give you and all that. That's just Active Directory stuff. But I'm going to add you or ourselves as a domain admin in the users group. So right click, go to new, go to user, and I'm just going to call myself an admin in here. Like I was hired by this company to do this job. So I'm going to just use this, my name, and here we're going to give it a password. And then I'm going to add domain admin rights to my account. Again, this is just a lab environment, so your company will decide what type of access they want to give you. Probably write this wrong, domain admin, there you go. And I'm going to click apply and OK. So now we have this account as a domain admin, and we have the server basically ready to be used with Intune, and then we can use the client later on. So when you join a company, and if they have everything set up, the Intune part is already going to be done. Like somebody already get the licenses, setup is done. You're gonna just log into the Office 365 admin, and here you're just gonna scroll down and click on Endpoint Manager, and that's gonna open the same page like this one. So you'll see a bunch of computers. Some will be directly connected to Intune. However, their process is, you will have to ask them, how are we managing computers through Intune? So they will say, this way, this is a document that we have provided to you, so you just follow that. In our scenario, at this point, there is no connection between this Intune, which is a JSS DMV on Microsoft, and then we just created a B2P service. There's no connection between this setup and the local environment. So, as an engineer or administrator, you are tasked to basically create an on-premises with our cloud from scratch. So the first step in this is this: when you go to Microsoft portal.office.com and you click on admin here, in most companies, again, this is already done because I'm just showing you how things are set up. So the company or the consultants or whoever have done this job for the company will come to domain here. They're going to get a default name from Microsoft like that, and it's going to show just like this. So then what companies will do is they will basically add the domain that they own, and that's why I said in the beginning that I own that domain, so I can add it here. So we're going to do add a domain here, and then we're going to type the domain name. So we just type it that way and say use this domain. Now it's smart enough to know where the domain is being hosted or where is it being controlled. So our domain is in the Cloudflare, which is a very big company, and most of the companies you're going to find out they're going to have something similar, where you just type the domain and then it's going to pick up. Okay, you need to basically configure this domain from the Cloudflare. So you see right here it says sign into Cloudflare, select verify, and we will take you to Cloudflare to sign in, and you can authorize and things like that. So we click on verify, and it's actually going to take us to Cloudflare. So I'm going to go ahead and authorize this, and this is how engineers basically work on. If they have to use a different domain services, is going to you have to then use that. And like I said, this is already done part. This is not a part of Intune, you managing Intune. It's a part of making everything work as an engineer. So I'm going to click on continue here, and it's going to go out and start do verification, exchange online, all that stuff. I'm going to add DNS records here. So it's going to proceed, and we're going to go ahead and authorize all of this. So right now you see Cloudflare need to remove the following records. So we'll have to kind of do this. So you can see right here that the email routing, disable routing first, and then reinitiate the setup provider writer. So basically these are kind of like protected records. So I removed the locked DNS records, and now I'm just going to confirm. And once I confirm, I'm going to go ahead and proceed with Microsoft steps. All right, so our setup is complete. If you come down right now, you see we have B2P service added. So we're going to be using this now for our, adding machines and connections between an on-premises Active Directory and with the cloud. All right, so connecting an on-premises environment, and like for example, this has no clue of what we just did in the cloud. So connecting this domain controller to this requires a connection between these two. How does that work? So we're gonna go back to Microsoft Azure and portal.azure.com. Let's just go there, and then here's this thing called AD Connect. You can search it and it will come up, and we're gonna click on it. So you're going to see something like this in your company, which is already probably done by someone, right? Because it's something that if they're hybrid, that this means they've already done this part. So we're making our company hybrid right now to use on-premises devices, Active Directory, with the cloud what Microsoft offers. So we're going to do that. We're going to move this to a new experience. So if somebody's using this page, it's going to look like this. So on this page, we are going to click on get started. And here you can learn about what is Cloud Sync, the benefits of it. And then here you will click on manage. Now you see in the manage, we have two agents. I am going to download this agent, which is called on-premises connect Azure AD. And now it's V2 version 2 plus. So we're going to do this because most of the companies are using it this way, and then maybe later on they might start using Cloud Sync as well. So we'll do that part later on. So if you go to a company and they'll say, "Hey, can you check if AD Connect is syncing?" You just added a user in Active Directory, or you just added a device in Active Directory, and we need to put it on Intune, or whatever the reason is, because there could be many things happening. This AD Sync is being used for everything you do in Active Directory. It just gets synced over. So that's why it's really important for it to work all the time. It runs every 30 minutes, but you can force it as well. So now we are going to go ahead and download this on a server that is going to take care of our syncing. So in a company, when you go and they will have a new server just designed for syncing process, because you don't want to use Active Directory for syncing, a lot of things while, Active Directory itself is pretty busy server. So let's go ahead and clone a new server from the server image to just quickly deploy something for AD Sync. We're just going to call it AD Sync. That's going to be the name of the server. And we're just going to click on clone, full clone, and create this server from scratch as well. And then put this agent on this server. And that's where it's going to do its job for us to do the syncing for us to connect this Active Directory environment to the cloud. We're going to use this new server that we are creating inside this environment right now. So let's go ahead and get this rolling. Of course, this is going to be the same setup. I'm going to turn it on, change the name, restart it, add it to the DC01. So I'm going to show that part very quickly because you know how to do this stuff. So before we join this machine to a domain, we need to change the name of this machine server. We're going to call it AD Sync and restart the machine. I did have to change the network setting on this because I didn't do that. AD Sync. So I'm going to click next. And then I'm going to do restart later. I'm going to do a shutdown on this for now because I need to change uh, the network settings. So let's go ahead. Once this shut down, we're going to go to right click settings and making sure that this network is also on a bridge, because if you don't do this, this will not be able to reach the domain that we have created. So right now, when I start this machine, we're going to do a DNS changes as well because we're in a very simple lab environment. So these are important. So before that's getting restarted, we're going to go ahead and log into our domain controller here and get the IP address of this domain controller because we want to connect this AD Sync to this specific domain controller. So let's find the IP address. All right, so we're going to do IP config. Oops. The IP address of this is 168.1.67. That's the IP address. It's also using IPv6. So let's hope that our server likes that IPv6. So we'll find that out. So this machine is just restarting right now. So let's log in and join this machine to the domain so we can install the agent on this machine. So let's go ahead and join with the password. So the first thing you should verify that is, did your network setting worked when you changed the network? So if you go to the CMD of this machine and type IP config, it should be on the same network. So that verifies that it is on the same. So it's 192.168, 1.168. So let's actually check, is that, no, yeah, 67 right here. So these are two different IP addresses. Sometimes that could get duplicated. And then what you need to do, you probably need to change the adapter settings by right clicking here, go to settings, and then go to network, and here remove this adapter, check this adapter, that will give it a new address. Then that should fix that issue if you come across that. Okay, so now we need to add this machine to the domain. So how do you add a machine to a domain? You just go to the system. There's many other ways, but of course I want to show you a very simple way. You come here, you click on advanced settings here, and here you click on computer name, change domain. Now, this probably may not work. So let me show you B2P service. This is the domain that we have created, a new Active Directory. So first make sure your names are correct. That's the biggest one. B2pservice.com. So if I do B2P service, immediately it's saying that there's a DNS issue right here. Okay, so we need to fix this. How do you fix it in a very lavish way? Of course, in a companies you don't have to do these things because the network, your computer already know where the DNS is, where the gateway and everything. You don't have to do these. These are done by your network engineers, systems administrators. You don't have to worry about this. So in the lab environment, you do have to do something special like this, where you got to go to the adapter, right click on adapter. Don't disable it. Just go to properties, and then here in IPv4, we need to add that domain the IP address. Basically, that's the DNS right now. So we need to do 192.168.1.167 because that's where it needs to talk to that domain. So if I come over here and I go back to the settings and I click OK, so you see b2pservice.com is not responding still. So that could maybe take a second or something. And sometimes you may have to disable basically a IPv6 as well. So it's 168 here, which is fine. Let's verify 167. Okay, so let's go back and close everything. Let's go back to system, and here advanced settings, and let's do computer name domain b2pservice.com, and we're still getting that. So again, at this point you need to go back to the domain controller and open Active Directory. Make sure there's no spelling mistake done when you created this service, so it does look good to me. And I'm going to come back over here and go back to our network settings, and I'm trying to see if I can do troubleshoot. Like for example, I'm going to turn off IPv6 and probably come back again. This time it did start looking a little different way. But sometimes you have to kind of take it some time and wait a little bit. So right now you see how it still had some issues going on with the connection. So the other thing we can do is to restart this machine and then try it again. Uh, since we're not offering IPv6 anymore, we're not using it. So I would also recommend you go to DC and turn IPv6 as well. That's what I did before restarting this. And we may have to also restart the DC if this first restart didn't work. So you go to the DC domain controller machine, go to the properties, and just turn off IPv6. So first restart the client machine and try it, and then restart the DC and then try the client. So let's see if this fixes our issue. All right, somehow it's still not working. So let's go ahead and shut this down and change the adapter, because at this point, this could be many other issues. So let's go ahead and shut it down. Okay, so now I'm going to go to settings, and this adapter, not sure if this is something to do with the adapter. Let's get a brand new connection. Bridge adapter, I click that, advanced, everything is good. And I'm going to click OK here. Let's go ahead and start it, and then let's see if that have any impact. Okay, let's see with this new adapter, what do we get? Okay, right click, go to settings, b2pservices.com, b2pservices.com. Oh, because I need, in the new one, I need to add it, the domain IP in the DNS. So we're going to go back to the adapter here. So go ahead and uncheck the IPv6 first, and then go to the IPv4, and we're going to type the IP address of the domain, just like. So here you go, 198.168, 1.167. You're gonna click OK, go back, and then type the domain again. I put that's in there. Okay, so let's fix this. Oops. I think maybe I'm putting some btpservice.com. What is the following occurred on the internet network? Okay, let's do this one more time here. Just let's go back here, go to change, and B2P service. Okay, I'm getting a lot of different errors. Why is that happening? Disable that, enable it, and making sure B2P service.com. Sometimes, you're just too tired and putting things wrong. That's very normal. Just make sure whatever you're typing is correct. So that's probably what I'm doing with this new message that I'm getting. So all these things are part of creating a lab environment. b2pservice.com. Still getting okay. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to restart this machine because that error is not correct. Something is not right. So I changed the adapter, went in again, turned off the IPv6. In the DNS, I put the IP address of the DC1, and then we got a new error, so I restarted the machine. All right, so we're back. First, let's confirm by going into our network, change adapter, go to properties. IPv6 is turned off. IPv4, we have the 192.168.1.167, which is the IP address 192.168. Okay, so that's fine. Now we're going to go back here, go to system, and we're going to go back to advanced systems, computer name, change, domain, and b2pservice.com. All right, there you go. So this is part of lab environment. And of course, when you build it, you're going to probably come across these issues. So try to do different things, just like what I did. So here I'm going to type B2P service slash Danish, which is the name, which is the domain admin that we have created in the Active Directory. So we need to add this machine through this user right now. And that's it. It's gone. It's saying that, hey, can I join your Active Directory? It's going to be added to this DC01 right now. We're going to get a message. There you go. Welcome to the domain. And we're going to go ahead and restart. And boom. So now if you go back to the Active Directory on this server, and here you see AD sync is added. That's now this machine is now being joined to this domain, and now it's a part of this Active Directory domain. Just like many other machines in your company that you see are a part of Active Directory, that's how they join them and now being controlled. But we added this machine because we wanted to install the agent. So this agent is going to connect us with the cloud and Active Directory all together, and will make us hybrid. So now we're going to go ahead and log in. So now we're going to log in with the Danish account, and here let's go ahead and give it a password. So on this machine, we're logging in with the Active Directory account that is in DC1, right? So now what I want you to do is to click on the local server once the server manager is open and disable the IE security because that's not gonna allow you to download easily. So let's go ahead and turn it off. And of course, you don't want to do this in a real environment. And here we're gonna go back to the browser now and install the agent on this server. So we're gonna go to portal.azure.com, type the username and password so to get back into your portal. Again, this is your Microsoft Global Administrator account and other admin accounts. So once you log in, same process. We're going to click on AD Connect. Let's go with a new experience and click on Cloud Sync. Oh, actually, no, sorry, my bad. We have to get started here and click on Manage here. Now, these downloaders, you can just go to Google and type AD Connect Sync version 2 or something like that. It will show up from Microsoft directly. So here you're going to click on Download Connect Sync Agent and we will accept the agreement and the download will start on this server. So you see right here the download started and almost finished. And here we're going to open the download folder and we're going to run this application on this server right now. So what are we doing? We're connecting an on-premises environment with our cloud environment so then we can sync our user from Active Directory. Anything you do in Active Directory, adding a user groups, and you will be syncing it over to the Office 365 environment. And that's what we need for the Intune hybrid environment, that all of this setup. Why we are doing this, because a lot of companies are using now Intune and they have Active Directory on premises. So how do they manage it? Is because all of this is already done. That's why we're doing all of this from scratch. So the application opens up like this. Then we will use here a custom settings, accept agreement, and express setting, not the custom settings. So we're going to do the express settings. Here it's going to ask you for the username and password, where again, that's going to be your cloud global admin account, not your domain admin account. Just make sure that this is correct. The password, everything is correct. So you see, once you add this, it's going to go over and verify that that is the correct. So the second one is connect to ADDS. The second account that it's going to ask you is the Active Directory Domain Services account, and that is something that you have created. But once you put it and you put your password, it's going to give you this error that it requires an enterprise admin group. So if you know how to work with Active Directory, you can just go back to Active Directory, and here you will just go to the same user, go to member off, and add just enterprise admin in here. So once you add the enterprise admin, that error will go away. So if you go back here and just type next, you see it lets you finish the whole process. So at this point, we can now install the whole, Express settings. Basically, it's gonna pick the information, the options that most commonly being used by companies. You change something in Active Directory, you sync it over, it's gonna go out there. So you're not doing something fancy here. If you have a lot of experiences working on this stuff, then maybe you can go with the custom, but usually I would stick to the express in the lab environment. And then you can ask your administrator in your company when you join, how did they set up things, or is there something that you need to know because you may be working on this for troubleshooting purposes later on in that same company. So you should know that. But having to run this like this, you have a really good confidence at this point. Now, how companies actually set up the whole hybrid environment from scratch and what have they used so far. So this really gives you that confidence now to where to go back and fix things and play around with some stuff. Even if your company is using in your lab environment, you set up something like this, you can always go back to your setup and start playing around before you start touching company's production environment. So once everything is ready, congratulations, you have done this part of the lab. We're going to go ahead and close. So now to open the AD Connect services, you can click here, and here we have synchronized services. So you can right click on this and pin it, or you can just double click on it and it will open the services now. All right, so you may see this error now. This is probably, you're not going to get this unless something got messed up while we were starting this whole, services accounts. But let's see. I mean, there's another thing we can check here. We can go back to properties, member off. So there's another, I believe, sync account. Let's call, or I can't find that account right now. AD sync admin. Let's see. Maybe this is the one that we need to add as well. So let's just add that AD sync admins, and let's go back here. This is probably starting with, close the window. I'm gonna go ahead and start it again. All right, we still have that error. So one thing we can do is probably restart the machine. But before we can do that, maybe we can go Azure AD Health, Azure AD connector. So everything looks good. All right, let's go ahead and restart this server now. Okay, so after restart, let's see if the synchronization service is going to work now. Oh, there you go. So you have to restart and adding that account to that as well. Sometimes I automatically may add it, but here we have added that right now. So we're good. Let's click on connectors. We have the main Microsoft account and an Active Directory Services account as well over here. All right, so now let's test a few things, what we have done so far, and does it really work? So what I want you to do is to go to the DC1 and create a user. Let's call it like a Dan. Let's call it Dan and create this user, Dan here with the name Dan. Click next and create the password. So once you create this user, now we know that Dan can get into one of our client machine and log into Active Directory in that company, but Dan will not show on the cloud right now, and Dan might start showing up after 30 minutes inside the cloud. How is that? That's because we have added AD sync over here, and what this sync is doing after 30 minutes is going to go out and see any changes in Active Directory, and it's going to move Dan to our cloud environment. So once you log into your portal.office.com and you click on admin, you see the Azure AD last sync was done here. So everything looks good. This shows your synchronization status in the company. But if you want to come in here to active users, we don't see Dan in here, right? Other things got synced over. You can see some of the other things are popping up over here slowly. So to make this process faster, what we have to do is on the machine, the AD-Sync machine, open a notepad here. Just open a notepad and we need to create some commands here. So go to a Google and type AD-Sync PowerShell and click on the first link from the Microsoft Tech community. This is going to basically teach us how to get those commands and everything working. So scroll down, and the first thing what you want to do is to open the PowerShell and import the sync module. So what you want to do is type PowerShell like that, and then right click on the PowerShell and run it as administrator and run it. And here what we need to do is to copy that first command and just import it just like that. So now what we're going to do is get to the sync scheduler. We're going to do the second one. Let's go ahead and do this one and just like that. So you see how it's basically giving us information right now. That's just to verify that everything is working. So we need these two commands right now in your notepad for future, because when you do some light changes, you use the delta. If you use the full changes, you do the initial. So we're gonna do this one right here, and we're gonna also copy the initial one. And I'm gonna come back here and save this on our desktop. This is for you to have it on your desktop. Every time, because we do so many changes on Active Directory, we add a device, computer, stuff like that in Intune, or users and stuff like that. So we probably need this type of commands always handy. So I'm going to copy the second command, like a full run on this, and I'm just going to run the initial sync on, and it's going to say success. So now we're going to go back to our user and we'll give it like, a few minutes, like maybe 1 or 2 minutes, and it should show Dan to us. See, when we ran that, it it didn't wait for 30 minutes. It just did it right away. So we got Dan at b2pservice.com in our cloud successfully added to our system. That shows that your environment is now hybrid and it's connected through AD Connect. And now I can come over here and assign a license. If I have a license, I can just give the license to Dan and he's good to go. He can just go to emails now, use OneDrive, many other things that Office 365 offer. But we did all this process because we wanted to use Intune in our system. So now coming back to our original story, many companies have been using Office 365 just like that, and they were connected to AD Connect, and they were using OneDrive and different type of applications that Microsoft offers over here. But then one time, maybe a director, CTO, CEO decided that, hey, instead of managing companies' desktops or laptops, or when we give the devices, we need to manage it through Office 365 Intune, that solution. So they went ahead, they got the licenses. You did that in the course. You know how to get it. You know what that is. And now you go to the company and you just see Endpoint Manager here, and the company is telling you you're in charge of this now. You need to start managing all these devices. So when you come over here and you click on the devices here, and then basically you come to all devices, and then here you see, okay, these are not a part of what we have just done. This was already there. So let's ignore these two. And they're saying that, hey, Dan is going to be using a desktop or a laptop, whatever that is, but we need to control that through this whole endpoint device because it has updates, it can manage things. You know this stuff from the course, right? Or you can go do the documentation and get more learning on that. But in the course, that kind of teaches you what we can do then. So now what we need to do, we need to configure our environment to automatically connect our device